The air gets heavy, the shadows move, and someone always seems to be following you. But when you turn around, no one's there.
Welcome to Paranormal. I'm Devin.
And I'm Kaden.
Hopefully the microphone didn't pick up Crowley making noises.
Hopefully not. We'll see.
Yeah, I hate to hear I hate to hear humans drinking water, let alone a dog drinking water with his tongue. Sounds almost as loud as when Dad drinks water.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. So it's been a hectic week.
We did Christmas stuff.
We did do Christmas stuff.
I'm not a fan of Christmas. It's still Halloween to me.
Well, Devin's the Grinch, but I love Christmas. And we have a tradition in my family every year. We take the kids to Santa Claus Land, Indiana. So
We take the nephews to Santa Claus Land in Indiana. We don't have kids yet.
I guess, yeah, we should probably specify that. So we take our nephews. My mom goes, my sister-in-law, sometimes my brother. But we go to Santa Claus and we do all the activities there. There's a candy store and a light show. There's a Christmas store. So they really enjoy it. A toy store. Yeah, the toy store. They really love the toy store.
I mean, I always get candy from the candy store.
Yeah, we always spend way too much money at the candy store. They have really good hot chocolate too. So, but it's fun. It is a great activity for kids. You can go to the post office and write letters to Santa. So it's always a really good time. They really enjoy it. Devin does a voice for the story of Rudolph during the light show because that's part of the light show. And they absolutely love it. It is their favorite thing. They ask about 1,000 times before we get there if he's going to do the voice. So,
Yeah,
do you want to give them a preview?
Oh, no, it's just for those kids.
It's just
I'm not
for the voice.
embarrassed of the voice. I'm just saying it's special for those kids.
Well, core memory for them. So they talk about it all year long. So we enjoyed that. That was a whole lot of fun. They're a blast. So getting older, getting opinionated.
Mhm.
We played trivia in the car, which that was hilarious to watch them try to answer the questions. Alex knows a lot about country music, which is crazy to me.
They know way more about country music than I do.
And just music in general. Like he really he knows a lot. I was really impressed. So smart.
I was surprised how good I was with Eminem trivia. Like
Mar-
I know a lot about him.
When we say Eminem, we mean the rapper,
Marshall Mathers, yeah.
not the candy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, that was an interesting round of trivia, but we did all kinds of weird different trivia and they had a whole blast. We were crate training Crowley. That's been awful.
Is miserable.
He hates it.
Like he doesn't bark. He does this howl, scream, screech, bark thing that puppies do, and it's just awful. And not to mention the guilt I feel having him in the crate.
Yeah, he's not taking to it too well, but we're really trying to stay firm because we want him to be well adjusted.
Yeah, I don't like dogs in crates.
Well,
So we just at night for now. Right now he's wandering freely,
well,
which is preferable, but since he's a puppy, we can't trust him.
no, he's not trustworthy at all. He'll eat something, so we
What
can't.
story you got for us today?
Well,
I got stuff to do, so let's get through this.
okay. So today we're actually going to cover a local legend. A
It's not
local
really a
it's not
legend.
really a legend, it's a haunting, but it's quite famous, most people know of it, but for us, it's definitely local, so we're gonna go over Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
It's just a legend that thousands of people died of tuberculosis in a hospital. It's
Yeah,
just a legend.
well, the haunting is the legend, right? Like, that's the legend, Waverly Hills.
I don't think it's a legend because people go there all the time and experience something magic.
Well, some people say they don't experience anything, some people say they experience everything.
I don't know who those people are that say that they never experienced anything at Waverly, but they gotta be blind.
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 We've been to Waverly twice. We did they have a lot of different options, so if you're ever interested in going, they do public guided tours, both in the daytime, which is just like a historical tour, which is really cool. You can see the building in the daytime and look at the historic architecture. It's very neat. And then they have a nighttime tour where you can go and tour it at night, and they tell a little bit more about, like, the hauntings and, like, point some things out, and you get to roam a little bit. It's very cool. The first time we did that, it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It was Valentine's Day, and it was really interesting. Devin saw something.
I saw shadow figures, but I mean, that really doesn't say much because I see shadow figures in my bathroom sometimes, so
Well, it was really cool. We went into I think there's an operating room, which we'll go over during the story, but there's an operating room on the 4th floor, and we had some shortness of breath in there.
mhm.
That was kinda
Mm.
freaky.
Yeah, you kinda feel dread and panic
Mhm,
in some of those rooms,
mhm.
especially that one.
Yeah, and then the second time we went, we actually went with a group of friends, and they have a 6-hour public tour that's an investigation. So, it's like $100 a person. You can take equipment and go, and, there are other people there, though, but you have 6 hours to investigate the building. We didn't really experience much then. I would say personally, like, if you want an experience of being there and doing it, and you wanna do it cheap, and you don't wanna do it by yourself, that's a great option. If you really wanna do, like, a serious investigation, though, the private tour is the way to go.
We'll do a serious investigation one day.
That's on our list of one of the places we want to, but it is, like I think it's, like, $1,000, so it's a little
We
pricey.
ain't got it like that.
Yeah. We ain't got it like that, but maybe eventually, but that's one of the places we'd like to do an investigation of, like, a serious one, but good stuff if you ever wanna go. We're gonna kinda go into some of the history of the building and the outbreak, and then we're gonna talk about some of the more famous ghost stories from Waverly, and then I have some examples of, people's, like, experiences local.
Oh,
So,
some ghost stories.
yeah, I went down a Reddit rabbit hole and found some firsthand accounts for you guys, so
Oh, I do declare I may have a bit of the consumption
a
today.
bit of the consumption, yeah. So, we're gonna get into it. Let's see. Uh,
Tell us about tuberculosis.
well, we're gonna talk about tuberculosis because, some people while Waverly is probably one of the most famous hauntings in America, it's one of the most haunted locations in America, allegedly. Some people don't know about it. So, we gotta start at the beginning.
Yeah, it's haunted because of all the people that died terribly.
Very terribly. So, tuberculosis is a bacterial infection, and in the pulmonary form, it can cause anemia, bloody coughing, shortness of breath, many other symptoms. It is a highly contagious respiratory infection. The disease has been known by various names over the centuries, such as consumption, as Devin so playfully mentioned earlier, but it was also called the White Plague or the White Death.
I love it when they call it the consumption. I just always think of like a Southern belle saying the consumption.
Yeah, it's pretty prevalent and a lot of, like, historical media and stuff, like, it's something people because it's so, like, contagious. It's actually one of the most, like, deadliest pathogens in the world. There's been over 1,000,000,000 people over the course of history that have actually died of tuberculosis, and that's a loose number because, record keeping wasn't super accurate back then, but it's one of the most deadly pathogens in history.
I'm not a doctor, but didn't they find out that moving to, like, Colorado or something, or just moving helped you get better?
No, but
Like, to better climates?
we'll get into that.
Okay.
That's part of the historical treatment, but no,
'Cause I've heard stories of people that have moved and gotten better from moving to different climate.
we'll talk about it. That does kinda play a role in things, so
Okay.
in the early 1900s, tuberculosis was the leading cause of death in the United States. Outbreaks were exacerbated by the Industrial Revolution. With the lack of sanitation and the close living quarters, it really made for a perfect breeding ground for the bacteria. Louisville, Kentucky, is surrounded by wetlands in the Ohio Valley. So, for those of you who have never been here, it is very humid, especially in the summer, and that makes it a exceptional breeding ground for the bacteria that causes tuberculosis. We were a hotbed in the early 1900s for the infections.
Well, it just sounds like a terrible place for a sanitarium to get better from tuberculosis, doesn't it?
It does, but it also made it incredibly necessary. So, as the cases were on the rise nationally, many states took to taking pretty extreme actions to try to combat the disease. So, they would build these large isolation hospitals, which were called sanatoriums, to house the large number of patients that were afflicted with the pulmonary version of tuberculosis. Building these allowed them to keep them isolated from the general population and to treat them better.
Why didn't they just load them up into wagons and take them? What was it? Like, we talked about this, like, a couple episodes ago, like, the Oregon Trail, or take them on by wagon, take them to somewhere else, like Colorado, so they could get better.
Because at the time, like 1 in 7 people had tuberculosis. It was super, super, like, prevalent in the population. So,
So we didn't have enough wagons to save
I just
everybody.
don't think that wagons would have been an effective treatment method because these people were really sick usually by the time that they started showing symptoms.
Okay.
So, no, I don't think that would have been helpful, Devin. That's very
If I had been around during the tuberculosis outbreak, I would have made sure that every man, woman, and child had access to a wagon to get them to safety from the humidity.
from the humidity in Louisville. Well, this was global. So, Louisville just had like I said, a hotbed of activity.
I'm just
So
trying to help Louisville at least. I'm one man, Caden. I'm one man. I can only give so many wagons out.
okay. Well, as I was saying, they built these large sanatoriums. They were large buildings. They would typically build them in areas that were isolated, and they built them very conscious of airflow. So they were typically open. They were designed to allow maximum airflow and sunshine into the buildings. As Devin kinda, like, mentioned before, some people would, like, move to higher altitudes and would get better, and that's actually why open air was the number 1 treatment for tuberculosis until they developed the antibiotics. So, that was the cure, was open air and sunshine, as much open air and fresh air and sunshine as possible. That was the frontline treatment.
Because in that movie Tombstone, Doc Holliday's just up hanging around with the boys, gunslinging and shit, and he's got tuberculosis
So
the
some
whole
people
time.
so some people did survive tuberculosis, they would get better, and then they would have relapses throughout their life where things would, like, get worse and then better and then worse and then better. Higher altitudes have thinner air, so that could have maybe played a part. Maybe it was easier for them to breathe. He's Googling. Maybe it was easier to breathe the air when it was up higher, which actually seems like,
Wait. You said some people made it from tuberculosis. No, Doc Holliday did die from
oh,
tuberculosis
so the
in
altitude,
1887.
so it didn't cure him. It
He
just helped for a little bit.
it helped him long enough to shoot that movie Tombstone,
Yeah.
but did not save him from tuberculosis.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a slow disease
Yeah, he died
usually.
in Colorado, and that was my only treatment option,
Mhm.
as Dr. Devon for
Yeah. Well,
tuberculosis.
you were right on par.
Colorado.
You were right on par with all of the leading physicians of the time. So, fresh air and sunshine was the number one treatment. So, these sanatoriums were built with that in mind. Very large and very open air, which if you ever again do get the chance to go to Waverly, you will notice that it is open, very open. So, as cases were on the rise nationally, as I said, they built these. Louisville specifically, like I said, we had an outbreak, a very dense outbreak. And at one point, like, we had the most active cases in the country. So, due to that, there was actually a board established to look for locations to build an isolation hospital to start combating the disease. In 1906, the Board of Tuberculosis Hospital was founded, and they were scouting around for a location. Eventually, they found a piece of property that was located on the outskirts of the city. The property was owned by Major Thomas Hayes, and it was called Waverly Hill. It was a large, secluded piece of property up on a large, tall hill. Very beautiful, very serene. They purchased that and began building what would eventually be known as one of the most haunted hospitals in America.
Real quick, before we get into Waverly Hills and stop talking about tuberculosis as much, did
Oh,
you
we're talking about a lot of
okay,
tuberculosis.
I just want to make sure that I hit this real quick because I want to kind of have a segue to our next episode
Oh, okay.
because I've loosely decided what I'm going to do for the next episode.
Okay. Segue away.
Do you know the name of the tuberculosis test?
No.
It is called Lam Elisa.
Oh, interesting.
And do you know who the next episode will be about?
Elisa Lamb.
Elisa Lam.
Okay.
Do you know who Elisa Lam is?
I do.
Yes.
I do. Shameless plug right there.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Okay. Well.
Okay, keep going.
Hmm. So in 1908, they began construction. The original sanatorium was a wooden structure that housed approximately 40 individuals. This soon reached capacity, and while several add ons and expansions occurred, it soon became clear that a larger, more sturdy structure was going to be needed. Construction on the stone building that you will still see today began in 1924 and was finished sometime in 1926. So, at the time of completion, Waverly Hills was a state of the art facility. It became its own self contained community, with the staff living on the large property, unable to leave. The community had its own butcher, post office, a water treatment facility, and other amenities.
Wait, did you find any more information about the staff that just couldn't leave?
Yeah, I was getting to that. The
Oh, sorry.
isolation
Sorry.
helped contain the spread of the disease, so they were frequently exposed to tuberculosis. It was highly contagious. There was no cure, no vaccine. So they were at risk of getting it and spreading it.
So when they signed up, they knew they were going to die?
They didn't know they were going to die. Not everybody got TB. Uh, or if they did, they didn't have like an active form of it. Some people have TB and never like develop a sickness. They just have it. and they don't get sick from it. So, as I said, so the community had its own butcher, post office, water treatment facility, and other amenities. The isolation helped contain the spread of the contagious disease. The 5-story hospital could house up to 400 patients at a time, and each room was surrounded by open air solariums. Each unit featured a nursing station, a kitchenette, where patients could dine if they were unable to make it into the dining room.
I think it's really cool. Maybe cool is not the word, but not to sound like I'm virtue signaling, but like I know when we went through COVID, nurses and doctors were like the real heroes there, the EMTs and everything. They really stepped up, risked their own lives because they might have gotten sick and died too. Just like in this situation, like throughout history, medical professionals, doctors, nurses, normal people volunteering and stepping up, knowing that they might die from the disease they're trying to help people from.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's amazing to see that throughout history. So, I truly value this, and it's so sad to me that they had to live in isolation.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't think that every sanatorium operated that way. That's just specifically Waverly. And I think a lot of that is just because of the fact that it was so isolated at the time. Dixie Highway now is pretty populated, but I believe back then there wasn't really much out that way at all. It was mostly farmland. So they were their own self contained little, almost like a city. So prior to 1945, there were no like actual medical cures for tuberculosis. Treatment would consist of, as we stated before, getting as much fresh air as possible, a good diet, proper nutrition, and exercise. The facility, though, also housed an operation room. Waverly specifically, there was a lot of experimental surgical treatments done. So when people were not getting better due to their open air regimen, they would attempt some pretty gruesome things to try to save their lives. While some people were saved due to these extreme measures, many died very not nice deaths, if we could just kind of very lightly put it. Some people didn't even make it out of surgery.
Trigger warning.
Yes, trigger warning. I'm going to kind of go over some of the procedures that were done. These are not an all exclusive list, but a lot of these were experimental. Some of them were helpful at times. A lot of people died from these. So, artificial pneumothorax, which is when gas is injected into the pleural cavity to collapse the lung. So, it was thought at the time that a resting lung healed better than a normal inflated lung. This was actually considered the gold standard of treatment until the antibiotics were invented in the 1940s. So, they would just collapse your lung, which is really painful. I don't know if you've ever known somebody who's had a collapsed lung, like naturally, like it happened, but it hurts.
I'm sure we know a few ever since vaping came out.
Yeah, yeah, it's not fun.
We lived through the vaping crisis.
The vaping crisis. Phrenic nerve crushing, which sounds terrible. It's a procedure that lifted and paralyzed the diaphragm by crushing the phrenic nerve with the goal to reduce the volume of the chest cavity. So the last one is called a thoracoplasty. This one's probably the worst one.
Yeah, that's the one that they told us about on the
They
tour,
did, they
and
did.
it gives me nightmares thinking about.
So, it is a surgical treatment that involves removing several segments of the rib cage and muscles to collapse the chest wall. It's a more extreme measure. It's done again to help collapse the lungs. They do this primarily due to adhesions when a pneumothorax is not possible. Sometimes with tuberculosis, you develop lesions on the lungs, and that causes adhesions, and so they couldn't do the pneumothorax because your lungs were literally stuck to, like, your muscles and your ribs, and so that's when they would do that, which sounds terrible.
So like I mentioned on the other episode, I was watching Peaky Blinders, and they were talking about this gold salt treatment as their last line of defense
For
for
tuberculosis,
tuberculosis because it takes place around the time tuberculosis is running
and
rampant.
that's in the UK, so it could have been
Yeah.
different. What was that?
Um, Gold salt. I just googled this because I don't know how it works. Um, Gold salt treatment uses gold salts to treat inflammatory conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, but it uses has declined due to significant side effects and availability of newer medications. Treatments involve regular and muscular injections. They were used as a treatment for tuberculosis, but they are not current or accepted medical therapy due to their significant toxicity and lack of proven efficacy in living subjects. Skin rashes. It caused skin rashes, kidney damage, bone marrow suppression, and death.
Yeah.
So it was not a effective treatment against tuberculosis.
I feel like a lot of the medical treatments back then, sometimes the treatment was worse than the illness.
Yeah, in the show Peaky Blinders, they made the gold salts tr- treatment for tuberculosis sound like a death sentence. So, judging by what I read on Google, it was a death sentence.
Or at least not super effective. So, yeah, no, that was a common theme with the more experimental treatments, especially the surgical ones. There are others. I'm not going to go into all of them, but they're not fun. They don't sound good.
So, I mean, the Anunnaki solved all of their problems with gold. Why can't humans
Right.
solve all their problems with gold?
I mean, gold I think does have like antimicrobial properties, as you can imagine, because of the lack of good solid treatment plans. A lot of people died. It's estimated. This number is also very controversial. If you do any research into Waverly Hills, you're going to get a lot of different numbers. 65,000 people was the original estimate of people that died at the sanatorium during its time as being used for tuberculosis. However, records show it closer to be like 8,500.
8,500?
Right, which is still a lot of people, but that's a cry, away from 65,000. There are also other estimates that say that 65,000 is not enough and it's closer to 100,000. So you'll find various different
Where do you
answers to
get
that.
the 8,500 number?
So if you look at the death index, there are death records for Waverly Hills in the historic archives, the Kentucky Historic Archives. They have like the names of the people and how long they had been there and all that stuff. And so those records are closer to 8,500. We don't know if it's just the records weren't great or if people are just sensationalizing the death that surrounds the location.
I mean, with one person dying every few minutes or a few seconds, I can't imagine it's hard to keep record of everybody going down the body chute.
Well, but I think that that's been exaggerated a little bit. I don't think it's somebody dying every minute. I think that
I am over
yeah,
exaggerating,
no, I
obviously.
that's what I'm saying. So the 65,000 is the common number that you will hear. I think it's even quoted on like the website for Waverly Hills, but that is again not a confirmed number. The closer number according to the records is closer to 8 or 9,000, which is still a lot of people to
I
die in
just
one
know,
location.
I just know that there were enough people dying
We're gonna get to that in just a
No,
minute.
listen, I just know that there were enough people dying in such a short period of time to where they needed a body chute.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll talk
There's
about
so
that.
many people dying that they need a body chute.
Mhm.
That just tells me, hey, maybe there's more deaths than 9,000. How many years was this going on, though?
So we're gonna get to that. You're jumping ahead.
I want to know now.
So, like I said, 65,000 people is what people claim.
I mean,
You can go online and you can actually see those records. Patients ranged from infants to the elderly of people that passed. Some people were only there for a short time. Some people were there for years. Some of the people that I saw that passed away, they lived in the sanatorium for 4 or 5 years before they eventually died. They just never left. So, they were patients for a very long time. And some patients would come and they would go quickly because they were sicker. By 1949, antibiotics had finally been created that were successful in treating tuberculosis. And that meant that more people could avoid the sanatorium and could be treated on an outpatient basis. So from that point on, the sanatorium was really more for, I guess, like really sick people. A lot of people were starting to be treated, you know, outside of that. In 1961, the sanatorium closed. So it was established. So if you do the math, right, the building was finished. The construction of that stone building was finished in 1926 and it closed in 1961. So however many years that is. I mean, that's almost 40 years.
but I mean, it technically opened in 1910.
Correct. The wood building
Yeah.
opened in 1910. So I mean, over 50 years, almost over 60 years that property was used to treat tuberculosis.
Where did you get the number 8,500?
That is from a website, the Kentucky Archives.
Oh,
The
Kentucky Historic Institutions?
it's at the bottom. I have it cited. I have several. So it's probably the kyhi.org.
Okay.
That would
Yeah,
be
Kentucky Historic
mhm,
Institutions
yeah.
website. 'Cause, I don't know, I'm just flipping through Google and saying 63,000,
Like I said,
50,000.
there is a lot of controversy about the number of people that pass there. Um, but technically, the records show a little under 9K. So in 1961, the sanatorium closed. About a year later, it was repurposed, and Woodhaven Geriatric Center was opened in that vacant facility. Woodhaven was a nursing home. It was primarily used to treat the elderly who suffered from various stages of dementia and had mobility limits, as well as the severely mentally handicapped. Due to budget cuts in the 60s and the 70s, care in the facility greatly declined. Conditions were described as being unsanitary. One of the reports that I read said that they had like a severe cockroach infestation. Patients were greatly neglected, often were left alone. Again, some of the people had severe mobility limits, so they would be left alone for hours, unable to move. The staff was allegedly abusive to the patients, and the facility used very unsavory methods of treatment. Electroshock therapy was frequently used on the patients. It just wasn't a good situation all the way around, so much so that in 1982, it was closed after it was found guilty of severe neglect and abuse during a grand jury investigation. So the state actually came in and they shut Woodhaven down. There are no records that I was able to find on the number of deaths that occurred during the time it was used as a nursing home, but people do believe that there were many due to the conditions and the inhumane treatment of the residents. when you go on these tours, they do talk about that a lot. What happened to those people when it was used as a nursing home. It was not a good situation. So once Woodhaven closed, from that point on, the property really it got passed around. It was left pretty much vacant since that point. There have been various owners making plans for the property, ranging from a low levels men prison at one point to the world's largest statue of Jesus.
Do you have any more about the largest statue of Jesus? Because
I almost went on a tangent about that, but I was like, that I don't want to get into that. But there was a man that wanted to build and had plans to build the world's largest statue of Jesus on the property and was going to use the building as almost like a museum kind of thing. That fell through in 1996. So when that happened, the property did sit vacant for years, and eventually it kind of fell into the disrepair that you see now. So if you ever go into Waverly, the first thing you're going to notice is that somebody came in there and really just roughed it up. There's graffiti everywhere. It's just they've done a lot to it now, so it's in much better shape now. But it was really a lot of squatters, kids. It was a local hotspot. You broke into Waverly to go find the ghost.
yeah, we know a couple people that have
So,
done that.
yeah, we know a few people that did that. Uh, so, but in 2001, it was actually sold to the current owners, uh, who established the Waverly Hills Historic Society. The goal of the society is to raise money for restoration. It is a historic landmark. It is a beautiful example of Gothic architecture. Um, and they really want to keep it up and restore it and, get the property back up to where it should be as a historic landmark.
Are they gonna, like, turn it into a hotel? 'Cause
There were plans for that at one point, but no, not now. I think now the tours so all the tours that you go on, that is actually how they get the money for the society, to do the upkeep on the property and to do the restoration work. And so, as I said, they do a lot of events at Waverly. They have some areas of the building that have been restored and are, nice and comfortable, like the lobby when you walk in.
by restoration, are they gonna, like, bring it back to how it originally was, or,
Yes,
like, where
that's the goal. The
where it
goal is for historic restoration.
where it has, like, heating and air conditioning and
And
isn't
it's
just an open building?
correct. So the current state of Waverly Hills is it's very much on the especially the upper levels. It's an open building. There's no electricity. Um, there's not windows in certain
I mean, there's
parts.
electricity, but there's no lights.
Not in the upper levels. There's no electricity.
No,
It
not I thought the
no.
doors had.
Just the stairwells. That's
Yeah,
for
that's what I meant.
safety. They
That's what I
they
meant.
redid those first. But the other love parts of the building, they don't have electricity or heating. They're open
And they're
to the
just open,
elements.
yeah.
Yeah. So but that is the goal. They wanna restore the building to a historical, as much as they can.
Because it would be cool if it looked exactly like the original Waverly Hills Hospital,
Yeah.
and then doing ghost investigations in this, like, really old-looking hospital would be
Mhm.
a lot more creepy.
Yeah, I don't know what, like, the timeline or what the end goal is, but I do know that the society's founding was to preserve and restore the building.
I wish they would turn it into a hotel so that,
You could
like,
stay there.
we could lay in bed while we get EVPs.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they decide to do with it. Waverly Hills is famous for the paranormal activity that's been observed in the building. People come from all over to participate in public and private tours that are offered. The building has been featured in many documentaries and many famous paranormal shows. Zach Bagans has been there twice. Everybody knows. It's-
Wait, is
There's
it Zach Bagans or Zach Baggins?
it's Bagans, I think. I think it's Bagans. I don't think it's Baggins. I
I
think people.
really hope it's Baggins and you just say Bagans from now on.
So, a lot of people have been there.
Because then I think of Frodo Baggins.
Who's Frodo Baggins?
Okay, you're gonna have to delete that. I don't. We don't want people thinking you don't know who Frodo Baggins is.
I don't know who Frodo Baggins is.
Lord of the Rings.
I've never seen Lord of the Rings. We've been over this, and you tell me that we can't watch it because it's boring.
It is boring. I don't wanna watch it
I'm
again.
gonna leave all this in here
See, there's
because
a difference. See, you've never experienced Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. I have, and I can tell you it's boring. The movies are boring.
that's gonna
All they do
spark
is
some
walk.
controversy.
All they do is walk.
It's gonna spark controversy.
I love that, from Clerks 2, even the trees walk.
Even the trees walk.
It's so true.
Yeah.
The only things I love about Lord of the Rings are Christopher Lee, most badass human being that ever lived. Look him up. Christopher Lee,
Okay.
not only a brilliant actor, but he was an actual spy. He actually knew Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings, and one of the greatest actors of all time, Sir Ian McKellen. And I love Peter Jackson because he did that movie Dead Alive. That movie's brilliant.
Okay.
But I don't I just have trouble watching the Lord of the Rings movies without falling asleep.
Noted. I've never seen them, so I can't comment on them. It's on my list, though, even though Devin doesn't want to help me with that. So, like I said, very famous haunting, Waverly. A lot of people have been there. People come from everywhere. People have a lot of similar experiences when they go, the most being auditory hauntings. So, people will hear coughing, screams, moans, the sound of children laughing.
Oh god.
So, Waverly had a whole children's ward. Very sad. A lot of kids died there from tuberculosis. So that's a pretty popular thing to see and hear children. People have described the sensation of someone holding their hand as they walk down the hallway. That's a common thing that you hear, commonality between stories. Some people do report feeling like a pain in their chest, almost like it's hard to breathe or it hurts to breathe, and a shortness of breath. We experienced shortness of breath at Waverly in the operating room. I don't know if it was actual, like, haunted, like, activity or if it's just, like, psychosomatic because people were talking about it. I don't know.
We won't know until we get some alone time there.
Right. So, when we went, we've been twice. The first time, the tour was interesting, and we had that, and we saw the shadow people. But our main investigation, we really didn't notice a lot of stuff. We didn't really
It
get
there
anything.
was just so many people there, I
There were so
guess.
many people there, and what I will say is not everybody is, respectful of the space when it's a shared space. They kind of, they'll pick a good spot, like, with the hot spots. There's popular areas of the building that are a little more known for certain activity, and they'll camp there, and they'll just really monopolize it. So there were some spots that we didn't really even get a good opportunity to sit and investigate. There are some people that are really loud when they're there. They, so some of the recordings you get, they could be polluted from that. So again, not dissuading anyone from the public tour. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was the first time we had ever done like a paranormal investigation with equipment, which was really awesome. But if you want like a serious investigation where you could really like get a feel for what the activity is going to be like, the private tour is the way to go. That's what we'll do the next time that we do Waverly, and we do want to. We want to give it like a good shot. But that to be said, there are people on these public tours that they witness a lot. They catch stuff on film, they catch stuff on recording. So, you know, we just we that just wasn't our experience.
I wandered away from the group for a while and just walked in the dark by myself, just to see if I could feel anything or sense anything or anything grab me or something while I was alone, but I didn't notice anything different.
So now we're going to go over some of the more famous hauntings. These are the entities that are described most frequently, or at least the more popular ones. The first one is called the creeper. Now, if any of the entities in the building are considered malevolent, this is probably the one that people are the most apprehensive about and that freak them out the most. And they actually brought this up on our tour specifically. So, the creeper is a large shadow creature that is frequently spotted on the fourth floor of the building. It does not appear to be human. You see it crawling along the ceilings and the walls. So, just imagine like a shadow creature crawling towards you from the ceiling.
Yeah, they told us if we saw it, we should get away really quick.
Yeah. Um, really freaky. Doesn't seem to have good intentions. Obviously, various shadow creatures are spotted, just shadow people in general. One of the more frequent occurrences that you will hear about are like if you're walking down a hallway, you'll see a shadow walk from one room to the other, like across.
Yeah, I saw that. I
Hmm.
saw that.
But the creeper is a little bit different. So the next thing that people see, this one I found really interesting and kind of scary, is people see doppelgangers. So people will report walking into a room and seeing a mirror image of themselves or somebody they know that's not there, either in the hallway or in a room, doing something out of character. So, like one of the accounts I saw, it was their uncle who really is like a cat lover. And they walked into the room and it was strangling a cat. Or they'll see themselves and it'll like smile creepily at them. So that is something that people have reported seeing in the building, doppelgangers.
That's wild.
That's super creepy. So, not so much an entity type, but as Devin mentioned before, and I don't know if I talked about it, a a lot of people died there, right? Some people were able to recover, some people did not, and they did die due to the volume at the height of, the illness. Waverly ended up converting an underground tunnel that had previously been used to transport supplies, and it was an interest for the staff, and they converted it into something they call the body chute. So, the body chute is a 500-foot tunnel. It is located on the lowest underground level of Waverly Hills. And this is where people would be taken out of the facility discreetly. So they actually have like a rail car system in this tunnel that was built in so that they could use the rails to lower the gurneys down. And they would lower it down, and there would be like actual rail cars waiting to take people away. Um, they did this to basically save patient morale. They didn't want the patients seeing how many of the dead were being taken out. So it's a steep. We've been in it twice. It's very steep. It's very long. You don't realize how long 500 feet is until you're looking down this very creepy tunnel. It is a hotbed though for paranormal activity. So the body chute has the nickname. It's called the Death Tunnel. People report feeling the sense of being watched as they go through there. People hear moaning, knocking on the walls. Some people report phantom lights at the other end of the tunnel, which is super creepy to me because again, if you've ever seen it, and Devin, you've stood with me at the top of this thing.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't walk down it or go
You
down
you
is
don't wanna
because
walk back up.
yeah, like the steep steps,
It's
it's so
super steep,
steep and
so steep and
exhausting.
oppressive. It's very claustrophobic if you're claustrophobic. But people will see lights down at the other end of the tunnel. Another thing that happens in there, which I didn't know this, and in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't know this when we went because I wouldn't have gone in there. People get locked in there a lot,
That would suck.
apparently. That would suck so bad because there's only one way in and one way out. Well, there's two ways in and two ways out, but either way, I don't think the bottom, like, I'm pretty sure that's locked up. So there's one way in and one way out. Could you imagine being stuck in there? And there's no way anyone could hear you. No one would be able to hear you if they didn't know that you were locked in there. So you'd be stuck in there for a while until security made its way around to go find stragglers.
That would suck so
That would
bad.
suck so bad, but that happens a lot. So if you ever go, the key to these areas, because there's another, and we'll talk about it here in just a minute, you want one person in your group to stay outside in case the door gets shut on you so that they can help. So the next entity we're going to talk about is Timmy. So Timmy is the ghost of a little boy. He was a patient of the children's ward. He had tuberculosis. One day, while playing ball with the other children on the roof of the sanatorium, and you'll notice when you go on the third floor specifically, it walks out onto like a rooftop, like, almost like a terrace, and you can go out there. Um, the children would play out there. And one day, while playing ball with the other children, Timmy actually fell off the roof and he died. Now, the death was ruled an accident, like, he accidentally fell off the roof, but some people actually do believe that he may have been pushed. There was apparently a man standing next to him when he fell. Some people think that he pushed him off the roof, but, that was not proven. The official cause of death is an accident. But Timmy likes to, play. So people will bring balls for Timmy. If you've ever seen some of the more famous, I guess, footage of Waverly, this is probably the more popular one, the ball. So if you roll the ball to Timmy, he will roll it back to you. So people bring balls, they leave balls. There are tons of toys up on the third floor that people have left for the kids so that you can interact with them. But that's probably one of the more famous ones is Timmy. The next one we're going to talk about is room 502. This is probably, again, one of the more popular stories, one of the more famous of the hauntings.
And that's our area code.
It is, which is, I have my feelings about this story, but I'll keep them to myself for now. So, room 502, again, the subject of much controversy. Two separate nurses allegedly took their lives in this room. Now, that statement also, again, controversial because some people say it's actually only one of them died and the other one died in the hallway, but nevertheless, 502, two nurses are associated with passing away here. In 1928, a nurse hung herself from a light fixture in the room. But again, some people say it wasn't in the room, it was outside of the room, but it was right around there. Uh, why she did it, we don't know. Some people think it's due to an affair that she had with a doctor and she ended up getting pregnant. That's one of the popular stories. Another one of the popular stories is she wasn't she didn't commit suicide at all. She actually the doctor put her there because of a botched abortion. That was another theory. Either way, she passed away. In 1932, in the same room, a nurse fell from the window and died. But it is believed that she actually jumped or may have been pushed. But obviously, very sad stuff happened here. This was a patient room as well, so people died probably in this room. People report a sense of dread when they walk into this room. So immediately they say that the air is just, it just feels very heavy. Other people claim that they hear a very loud get out when they enter the room. People have felt, like people grabbing onto them, just a lot of stuff. A lot of people feel a lot of things in this room. It's like considered a hotbed. We went into room 502 and I can say absolutely nothing happened. Um, but again, that's just my experience.
I thought the nurses killed themselves because of getting tuberculosis.
That's also a theory as well. That's one of the
Well, you didn't
less
say that.
I yeah,
That is the
I forgot to mention that's one of the least popular ones. The most popular one is that it was because she was pregnant, she had an affair with the
yeah,
doctor.
because that's most sensational,
Mhm.
but the one that makes the most sense is she got tuberculosis and
Yeah.
killed herself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories, but also, there's actually no record of it even happening.
Really?
Yeah. So that's another thing that, like, people are like, "Maybe it's made up," because there's really no death record. The nurse falling out of the window, there is a record of that. That did happen. But the nurse committing suicide and hanging herself from the ceiling, that never happened.
Mm,
And also, another thing that I like a discussion that people have had online is at the time, so that happened in 1928. It would have been when the building just opened. They didn't have sprinkler systems, so the pipes at the top wouldn't have been there.
mhm.
Those were added later.
But it's a light fixture.
The light fixtures were decorative. So people are like, there's no way it would have supported their weight.
Mm,
So a lot of people think that that might have been made up.
yeah.
Also, 502, fun fact, is the Louisville telephone area code. So it's very convenient that the room that's the most haunted in the building is room 502. But that's the skeptic in me being like, you know. So take it with what you will. But that is allegedly a hotbed of activity. I cannot confirm nor deny. The next place we'll talk about is the fourth floor surgery. This is the operating room on the fourth floor. A lot of the experimental procedures happened here, the ones that we talked about earlier. People frequently get locked in this room, so much so that during our tour, one of the tour guides stood outside so they could open the door because it's a very heavy metal door and it locks. If it gets shut, it locks.
And wasn't there a guy that got crushed in the door?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't wanna say that for sure, like, but I kinda remember hearing something about that on the tour as well, that you had to be careful when you're walking in and out the door.
Because
They
somebody got crushed in the door
crushed in the
because the door
door
is so heavy and they
because the
tried to stop it with their body.
yeah, like, they said if it's gonna shut, just let it shut. That was a big safety thing, so but people get locked in there, so again, if you ever go, warning, leave somebody outside to help you, otherwise you'll be stuck in there for a while. People, report hearing the sounds and smell of surgery, like antiseptic, blood, hearing the sounds of utensils. People experience shortness of breath and pain in their chest and burning sensations. We actually did experience shortness of breath in this room. Again, I don't know if it was truly some phenomenon or just psychosomatic because it's really creepy. I don't know. But Devin and I both after the fact, we didn't talk about it during, but after the fact, we both brought up that, "Oh, like, I felt really short of breath," and we're like, "No way, me too." So, um, take that for what you will.
But let me say the second time we went, the last time we went, there were these assholes, these ghost investigator assholes camped out in that
They
room. They had,
did.
like, Christmas lights and shit,
They were doing, like, a weird Stranger Things kinda, like, setup.
and I'm like, I'm sure whatever they were doing was very technical and very important, but these pricks were in there the entire
They were.
night.
They were. Literally,
And
we came several times just to try to get in there.
and they're the same
The same
people
people,
were just hogging the room.
they stayed in there. So maybe they were getting some good stuff. I mean, maybe
I
it
don't give
was
a fuck what they were getting. Like, no, making paranormal investigators look like inconsiderate dickheads like those other guys on TV.
Yeah, so, I mean, and then that's, again, why I say if you want, like, a serious investigation, pay for the private, because if you're sharing with the public, you're sharing, and sometimes you get people who are serious, like, those people looked very serious. They were not playing around. They had a lot of equipment, but they camped, and they parked in that spot, and they were not sharing. They weren't like, "Hey, come on in and join us," or anything like that. Like, they were stoically doing their work. And then you have some people that are just there to have a spooky time, and they'll laugh and giggle and run through the halls, and so it's, again, do what you will.
If I ever encounter that ever again, I'm just gonna run in and start kicking
Oh,
shit.
stop,
I'm gonna start
stop.
kicking shit.
If we ever go back to Waverly, it would be we would be doing a private investigation because we would wanna have the place to ourselves. The next person is it's so they call it simply the little girl, but is this one entity or multiple entities? I couldn't say. Again, a lot of children died at Waverly. There's a whole children's ward. But the little girl is on the third floor. That's where the children's ward is. And there are reports of her trying to play hide and seek with people. So peeking around the corner, giggling, especially in the solarium. That's one of the more popular spirits that people see.
What's a solarium?
The solarium are like the big, like porches, like the rooms, the sunrooms that were out there. Back then, they were windowed and, like, screened in. Now they're completely open, but that's a solarium. It was a sunroom, basically. So, before I move on to some firsthand, accounts that I found, Devin, do you have anything that I missed that you wanted to bring up as far as spiritual activity?
No, I already brought up a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff.
okay. So I just wanna make sure.
But, like, they'll, on the tour, they'll ask for volunteers, um, and see if somebody wants to walk down the hallway,
Mhm.
and everybody watches, and I volunteered, and I guess I was supposed to feel
Like
people
hands.
grabbing me and
Yeah.
stuff, and I didn't notice anything. I think it's just because it was a large tour group, but, I mean, when I go to a haunted place, I wanna get grabbed. Like, that's what I live for.
Okay, so I wanted to find some more, like, firsthand accounts. So I went onto Reddit. I will tell you all the name of the forum and the user, but I wanted to share some stories that people have shared online about their time at Waverly. None of these are mine. I take no credit for these. I give credit to the original poster or the original poster based on the Reddit forum. So hopefully it is their story. This is just for entertainment purposes. None of this is me. In the forum are paranormal. User ShadowPerson502 shared the following story, and I thought this one was really cool. So, I have worked as a volunteer at the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and I have been on many tours and investigations. I will start by saying this: it doesn't matter who you are or what your beliefs are, things happen in that building that are not explainable. I've seen people get possessed, and I have had something attempt to take control of me as well. I've heard voices with nobody around. I have smelled cigars when nobody was smoking. And I have been pushed up against a wall, seen a doppelganger, watched inanimate objects move on their own. The most impressive thing to me is when I was doing an overnight investigation with two small groups in the building. I walked down to where the restrooms are while my significant other, cousin, and his wife were standing on the fourth floor, along with a couple of people from the other group. My significant other is a complete non believer. She refuses to accept anything as being paranormal. When I walked back to the fourth floor, they weren't there. I ended up finding all of them on the second floor shaking. After I'd walked downstairs, they had all saw the exact same thing at the exact same time. Keep in mind, a couple of them are total strangers. So they're with a group of people that they've never met before. They all saw a very large black shadow move toward them in the hallway, as well as a smaller shadow come crawling on the floor rapidly. My significant other, who doesn't believe, was in tears. None of the people in that group would go back to the fourth floor. It is really something to take a total skeptic and let them see something so unexplainable for themselves. I will throw this out there. Hopefully, it is allowed, but I would be happy to answer any questions anyone has. I am not, nor have I ever been paid by Waverly Hills. This place is truly amazing to me. So, that one I found really interesting because they were a bunch of people who had never met each other and they experienced the same thing. One person was a skeptic. Also, like the possession, because I didn't know that that was something that apparently had happened there, but I guess it would make sense that there could be some dark energy there with everything awful that happened, especially during the time that it was Woodhaven.
Yeah, you know, the way dark things feed off of.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So the next one that I have is in the form Argos, and the user is GXDMN Batgirl. Hello, all. A fellow Redditor asked me to share a post about some of the experience I had while investigating Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. As I've stated in the post Our Paranormal subreddit, I've been researching and investigating the paranormal since 1998. I do have my own team, and I have visited some of the most notoriously haunted locations in around the US. I should also mention that I am a sensitive, and this gift does enhance my investigations. This post will be somewhat long, but hopefully it grabs your interest and you read through to the end. I visited Waverly Hills back in July of 2012 and had three other investigators with me. I'm not going to say their names, but it is in the original post. If you have never seen the building before, it is worth looking up. It's huge and incredible to see in person. It will be hard for me to sum up my experience without going into great detail because I feel that the full effect of these experiences can only be truly felt with a very vivid description, but I will do my best. This was the only place I've ever investigated that made me feel uneasy through enough to want to leave. But this sensation only came over me when my team and I entered the fifth floor. Legend states that when the hospital was in operation, 1910 to 1961, a nurse had an affair with a doctor and became pregnant. Not only that, but she and therefore her unborn baby had contracted tuberculosis, the disease the sanatorium was determined to cure. Unable to handle the stresses of her transgression and unable to bear the thought of her child being born with this disease, she performed her own abortion and threw her baby into the sewer system. And then she hanged herself. So this is, I'm assuming, about room 502. Note this claim is not conclusively substantiated and it is just legend slash folklore. I'm not saying that this is the particular entity that I encountered here, but I'm just including this as a background. Hospital staff, as well as patients, contracted TB and passed away from the disease. So the entity that I interacted with here at Waverly could have been one of those nurses. So that was just like a sidebar that this person left. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a sensitive. In a previous investigation at Prospect Place Mansion in Dresden, Ohio, I had made a connection with a female spirit there. It became so strong that at one point, while communicating with her and other entities through an SB7 spirit box, I started to feel her emotions and became so overwhelmed that I started to cry. Once the session was concluded, my own feelings came back to me, but the residual energy the residual of her energy stayed with me for the duration of the night. So again, just another sidebar, I guess, of her explaining, or this person explaining, like, their perspective. So at Waverly, once we reached the fifth floor, I became extremely apprehensive. Usually, I will be at the front of my team, guiding them to particular locations according to the strengths of the energies in the building. Sometimes I will follow up behind in an effort to sort of protect my teammates. In this particular case, I did neither. Feeling incredibly nervous, I put my back up against the wall and would not move away from it. I tried to maintain my composure as best as I could, but I felt slightly safer and less exposed. I wanted so badly to leave, but I knew that I could not abandon the investigation or my team. I could not let them down. In my uncomfortable state, I pressed on, leading my team in an EVP session. We began asking basic questions to try to see if there were any intelligent entities with us. One investigator stated they wouldn't judge her for what happened to her and that it was safe for her to talk to us. After a few moments of silence, I heard footsteps walking around us. Later on, when I reviewed the audio, I heard four very clear footsteps, which sounded like a lady's heeled shoes clicking on the linoleum. It was a fast-paced walk. Well, it says face-paced walk, as if she had someplace important to be. Perhaps a doctor required her assistance in surgery. This would lead to other experiences throughout the night. After the fifth floor, we made our way back to the first floor. I moved around according to the pool of the energies in the building to the electroshock therapy room. In here, we decided to separate with each of us in a different corner of the room. It's a big room. We decided to conduct an SB7 spirit box session, and we were not disappointed. Please note that there were virtually zero radio interference due to the building's location and distance from any major cities or radio towers. We started with the usual introductory statements and asked the usual questions. What I look for is intelligence, so I try to elicit real time responses from any entities which might be present. I said out loud that we had come a long way to speak with them, that we had traveled all the way from New York. I asked if they knew where New York was, and a female voice came through the box north. Having received an intelligent response, I asked if she could tell me the names of any one person on my team. The same female voice came through and said, Thomas. Naturally, we were impressed and continued on. Having received two intelligent responses, both in the same female's voice, I said, I'm hearing a female. Do we have a lady here? What came next was disturbing. Three different voices, dark voices, came through, joined together, and said, Don't speak with her. This sent chills down my spine. I started asking questions like, Who am I speaking with now? Why can't I speak with her? What do you want with her? I told them that they had no right to keep her and told them to let her go. If they ever did, I do not know. We did not receive another response from those dark voices, nor did we hear from the nurse, as I presume that is who we were communicating with in this room again. We moved on. Next, we went back upstairs, this time to the fourth floor main operating room. Liking the idea of using trigger objects, objects related to a particular point in time history, which may be familiar to the entities that could reside there, I brought dust masks with us to simulate as doctors' masks. In this room, this person, I'm not going to say their name, took on the role of the doctor. We started another spirit box session. So and so asked, Do we have any nurses here who can help us? A female voice responded, Yes. I then asked, Do we have a nurse here? Can you come over to the doctor and let him know that you're here and that you're ready? Again, the female voice, Here. I asked, You're here? Nurse, how many patients do we have on the list for today? The female voice responds, 3. My theory here is that she recognized blank as the doctor. Perhaps she thought the other 3 of us were his patients. The conversation continued. Blank says, What's the first step? Nurse, give him first aid. We asked more questions like this, but she did not respond to them. The next question she did respond to was mine. Can you tell us any of our names? We are the doctor's assistants. And the nurse replied, three. We continued to converse with her, but this was the last response she gave. I felt that after a few moments of silence, she had left the room. My final encounter with the nurse of Waverly Hills happened after our investigation had ended at 3 a.m. We had gathered all of our gear up and head back down to the gift shop, which had been designated as HQ for the evening. Our tour guide had stayed down there while we were conducting our investigation, but when we got back down there, he had asked if any of us would be willing to go back into the building with him so that he could lock up. Of course, we all volunteered to go, and so we did. No longer feeling uneasy, I followed up at the back of the group, hoping to get a few moments away from everyone to experience the last bit of energy that Waverly was willing to share with me. As I was walking past a very large room, I'm not exactly sure which room it was, as it was still pitch black inside the building, I distinctly heard a woman speaking. It had definite female vocal tones, and she spoke a full sentence as if having a conversation with someone. Unfortunately, I could not make out what she was saying, but I know for a fact that I heard her disembodied voice with my own ears. It was a really amazing experience for me, as I had never had such a strong connection with the spirit before. The nurse was with us from the beginning of our investigation until the very end, saving that last little bit of evidence just for me. She made the night truly special, one I will certainly never forget. I can't wait to get back there and investigate it again. I wonder if she'll remember me. So I found that one really interesting just because, like, they had several instances where they caught stuff. Um, in the comments, the user has since been deleted, so I unfortunately can't say who they are, but they actually brought up in this specific story that when they were stationed at Fort Knox, this user said that they went with a group of friends. The fourth floor, I believe, where the shadow children play, I was walking with the group and stopped to check my phone. I felt a little shove from my behind. Thinking it was someone from my group, I turned around to see who it was, and there was no one there and no one within 10 feet of me. It's a pretty cool place. Okay, the last one that I'll talk about from this specific thread, it's a comment, is from the user Angie Maynard. They said that they went to a tour in 2011, two things, one mild and one more intense. The mild one was that all the pics I took in the death tunnel disappeared. The digital camera days did not have an early iPhone, but took pics with the camera, and for some reason, the only those pics were gone. The other one was we were in the room with some of the surgeries were done, and the tour guy said that Dr. Ghost did not like him. A door slammed while he was talking to him. To this day, my husband swears it was rigged. Very interesting. So, lots of stuff on Reddit if you're interested. We don't have time to go through all of these stories, but those were a few that I found that I thought were interesting. Um, but if you're curious and you want to hear some firsthand accounts and some skepticism, you can go through the R Ghost, the R Paranormal. All those threads have plenty of back and forth. So good stuff.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. Great job doing the research. Loved it.
So
Definitely want to go back.
yeah, definitely want to go back. Final thoughts on this.
I want to see the creeper.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna give it another fair shot because again, when we went, I think there was just a lot of people there, and it was really overwhelming. The scariest thing that happened to me that night was the bat.
Oh, I remember there was a bat
There was a bat, so
inside.
we were in one of the rooms, my sister and I, and, a bat just showed up out of nowhere, and so we started screaming, obviously, and, like, running out of the room, and everyone thought we had saw something, and no, it was the bat. Um, Rabies is the scariest thing to me, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, rabies
Rabies.
is scarier.
Rabies is scarier than ghosts, so but, I wanna give it a fair shot, but I will say that there is a lot of controversy surrounding Waverly. A lot of people don't believe it's haunted, Or if it is haunted, they don't believe it's quite as active as it is portrayed. I can't speak to either. Maybe we can give you a better assessment when we do our investigation eventually. But regardless, it attracts thousands of people every year from all over, and a lot of people have similar and shared experiences. We would be so happy to hear if you've ever been to Waverly and you have an experience, or if you've been there and you didn't have an experience and that has given you an opinion. You can share that with us on our website. It is www.paranormalpodcast.com. We would love to hear from you. Any stories that you guys have about Waverly, your time there, or any thoughts that you have, we'd love to hear.
We will go on a private. We'll go one night privately, stay there all night, and we will let you all know what we find if we find anything.
Yeah.
But in my old age, I'm starting to become a skeptic. I'm more of a skeptic than anything, and I want to hear about real stuff. I think all in all is probably just a kangaroo in a mask.
A kangaroo and a mustache?
No, just a mask,
Oh,
complete mask.
a kangaroo.
Not just a mustache this time, it was a kangaroo in a mask.
Okay.
That's it for tonight's episode. But remember, the strange stories never really end. We'll be back next week with another tale that'll keep you guessing what's out there. Until then, stay curious and maybe keep the light on.
Thanks for listening to Paranormanon. If you like this episode, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and help us grow by sharing it with a friend who also enjoys the things that go bump in the night. See you soon.